What is going on, everyone? My name is Eric Piccioni, and this video is about the American culture when compared to the international cultures. And if I could go back in time, 200 years and change the way that our culture is, this would be some of the recommendations that I would say. And if you agree with these points and any others or disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments below, but we will get started right now. I don't have a photographic memory, so I've made some notes on this notebook, but one of the things that I've noticed ever since I started hanging around more international folks that are, from Europe or from South America and Russia, just all over the world, the thing that was a extremely obvious point, and these are, going to go down the bullet list. The first is, man, we are fake. My God, we are way too disingenuous with our, I said that weird, disingenuous with our day-to-day, decisions and just overall actions. Like, I can't even, I get to the point now where I try to hang out with my friends. Maybe it's just my friends, I don't know. But I get to the point now where I try to hang out with people and just set plans. And maybe 10% of the time do we actually follow through on it. And I'm not going to go out of my way to force them to do anything. But it's just crazy that you set a plan and you're like, hey, let's hang out on Tuesday next week at this time. And they say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. Super excited to hang out with you, man. It's been so long. And then 10 minutes before I'm about to leave to go, it's like, hey, just checking, making sure that you're showing up. Are you coming? Oh, last minute changes. I can't make it anymore. Whatever bullshit excuse. And, I've done this in the past where I'm texting them the night before and they're like, yeah, I'm all good. Or no, we got to bump it. Yeah, sometimes we end up hanging out, but more often than not, it usually never goes through. And it could just be me. Maybe I'm just complaining because I have weird friends. I don't know. But it's something that I've noticed all the time with my circle, in the American culture, especially when compared to the international culture. I set a plan with the international folks, bro. They're punctual or sort of punctual. They will show up. They might be a little bit late or whatever, but it is not fake. They take it serious. If you set a plan with them, they're gonna be there, and oftentimes they're early or whatever. It's a big deal. You're taking time out of your life to go hang out with someone. That same person will respect that just as much, going back into the plan. So that's interesting. It's just, why is it that way? I don't know. I wish we could just set and keep to our promises, but also just when you're walking on the street, when you're in crowds and you're talking to someone, it just feels a little overly optimistic, a little overly fake. Just be real. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a negative Nancy or whatever, but when I'm talking to someone, it's like, dude, we're just talking about what I did last night when I got home. And you're talking about your day when you got home from work. And it's it's not like what I'm saying is anything revolutionary. I had a bowl of cereal for dinner. Chill out. It's just weird how extreme the reactions are whenever you try to talk to someone and they're like, yeah, oh yeah, wow. And it's like, whoa, get away from me. You're a little weird. Anyway, that's one of the reasons. I do think that we're very closed-minded as a culture. Of course, there's people that travel all over the world. But what's funny about those people, those digital nomads, you look into a lot of those videos and those cultures, or those organizations of people that travel for a living, they don't usually come back to the US. They travel, they experiment for a year, they go outside of the country and try other places, go to 20 countries in 3 months or whatever, and they usually don't end up coming back to the US. So if that's a testament to how interesting it is outside the US, that's, take it what you will. But I'm not saying the US is a bad country. I'm just saying there are a lot of people in the US that are closed-minded, like we moved out of our state. We used to live in Texas and we're now in Ohio, and everyone was like shocked that we would move. And when you have a whole month of 100+ degree weather with no rain, you know, you're constantly reminded that it was the right decision. But it just feels that a lot of people are on the same wavelength, that they don't want to go outside of their comfort zone because they have everything they need right here, which is, you know, it's cool. Like conveniency is great, but I don't think that a life of conveniency is a life worth living, because you really get to experience life through these adventures and pushing the boundaries of what you thought was possible. Like, try to find me someone that is 600 pounds and is like never left their house in months, or is super comfortable, I guess, and show me someone that's happy. But the people that, you know, travel, or the people that run these like ultra marathons, I can't say that they're super pumped all the time, but the people that experience life a little bit are genuinely more happy. And for the vast majority of the international cultures that I've met and chatted with, they seem exponentially happier because of the culture that they're grown up in is more around like family values and just spending time with one another and being a cohesive unit. Whereas here we're very greedy. So that segues to my next point. I touched on it a little bit. It's like the convenience part of this country is, damn, everything is so convenient. Awesome in one aspect, it's really bad long term on the other hand. Like I'm not saying it's bad to have things delivered tomorrow, but do you really need that thing? Do you really need that handbag delivered Amazon Prime yesterday? Like, it's gotten to the point now where we're so used to having it, like now it's like crack cocaine, and it's like, God, I gotta have it. And it's a little weird. It's a little weird that everything is so easily accessible and so readily available that it makes our, what's the word? Our patience, our gratification so short that our dopamine is like, or however the chemicals work, it's like we almost have to sustain a high level of consumption in order to keep hitting that dopamine. Whereas other places, like other cultures, we went to Ecuador last year, they don't even have addresses, they don't have Amazon, and they are happy as hell. They're perfectly fine. And they don't need all this materialistic stuff. Like, it's not a big deal. You have everything that you need around the corner from you, like grocery stores and stuff. But when it comes to, you know, literally anything that you can think of, Amazon will probably deliver it in the next couple days, which is awesome, but not awesome. But more in the sense of like food. If everything is readily available, how clean is it? How fresh is it? Because if everything here is so fast to get to you, that means that they're doing something in their farm. And this isn't a surprise, I hope, that they're changing the chemicals and the way that they feed their animals so that they're just giving you diluted versions of quality food, and that it compounds over time. If everything is so easy to get, just think of what that does for you 20 years from now. If all you're consuming is like botched down or chemically enhanced foods that are, variations of what we should actually be consuming. And I'm not trying to turn into like some hippie. I'm just sharing. I think we should definitely rein it back a little bit. And I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure how we would turn back the clock, because it's such a moneymaker for the country to just like give everyone crap because they get hooked on it. A lot of our food has sugar in it, but that's another conversation for another day. I think that the materialistic part of it is really bad here, like very bad. There's always someone that we're comparing ourselves to, and that's synonymous to any country or any culture, but we have such a big focus on what someone else has that we forget like we're perfectly blessed to have what we have. I'm guilty of it too, but I'm American, so I'm speaking from personal experience. I think a lot of the American culture is very, very materialistic. You look at the American culture, and success for us as a whole, in the media at least, is deemed as who has the biggest house, car, fanciest job, best looking spouse, best family. Like, it is not based on internal values. It's more of like external values of what someone else has, of, hey, he has a better house than me, I gotta work 2 extra hours today, or I gotta work an extra 8 hours this week to keep up with John down the street. And that's a terrible trap to get yourself into, because that means you're gonna take on crazier and crazier loans and crazier house loans, and that's gonna put you deeper into debt. So all of this stems and is a commonality with us, where a lot of Americans are into deep, deep, deep debt because they've overextended themselves in all of these materialistic purchases. And it's just a bad life to live. Like, you look at international cultures just across the board, they're happy with what they have. They have a 10% of what most average Americans have, and they're perfectly fine. They're happy. They're walking around with smiles on their faces. You ask them, like, do you have anything you would want? It's like, I have everything I need. My family is right here. They're all healthy. We're good. That's a big adjustment that we need to have here. And, it's not like I can wave a magic wand and do it. I'm just saying it would be awesome if even one person watching this video takes that into account and says, do I really need that thing? Is it a want or is it a need? And if it's a need, let me take a couple days to really think it over before I consider working and giving my time away to buy that thing. Because really, it's not like you're paying with money, you're paying for items with time. And if it takes you, a whole week to afford that thing, is it really worth a week's worth of your time to pay for it? A lot of times the answer is no. And the grind mentality comes as a comparison to that materialistic mindset, where I'm a big fan or advocate of grinding. Like, I think it's important to be able to work and earn what you have, because that's one of the American dreams, is being able to earn a living in a lot of different ways that you can. Like, you can straight up just record videos and make a living off of that, which is crazy to think, because some cultures don't have that luxury. They don't have freedom of speech. So it's a big blessing here. But that being said, we've gotten ourselves to a place where it's always a competition, like I said earlier, but it's like you have to work 16 hours a day or else you're a loser, which is an insane thought, because there's a lot of people in this country that are stuck, and their thought process is, I just got to work harder. I got to work harder. I got to work harder. I got to sacrifice now so I can live better later. That whole thing. And in a sense, that's true. But if it's at the expense of your soul and your well-being, because a lot of people think that they need to work harder. Yeah, there's the work harder, or work smarter, not harder approach. But what if you don't need to have those things, because then it doesn't force you to work so hard for them? Like, if you work your ass off to get these bigger and bigger toys, you're just going to have to maintain an even higher level of work ethic, which is a terrible way to live, because I would rather live in a basic, 2-bedroom, maybe 3-bedroom home, and with my family, and all of our bills are paid, and live a modest life, versus some of these dudes out here that get these multi-million-dollar mansions for no reason. And now, congratulations, you've just bought yourself 10 more years of hard work. And that's just a crappy life to live. Again, going back to other cultures, they're happy, they're good, they're fine. It's just they weren't raised to think that they need to buy all these fancy toys and work their life away. All of these companies in other countries, their policies are set in place to give the men and the women in the relationship paternity or maternity leave. They give them very generous PTO, and they almost enforce it upon you to take time off. Some cultures, they have like 4-day work days, or they are shocked when you're working on the weekends or outside of traditional working hours. They're like a little mad that you're working because it means that you don't care about your family, and family values are big in most countries. So that was another thing that I really appreciated when I got to meet other international folks. Now, going back to my other point earlier, sorry to bounce around a little bit, is I think as a culture, we're very soft. Like, we are patriotic, we're very prideful in what we do and say, but I think as a general like net, we're very soft. And I think that comes from a few different things. Personally, I think it's like the freedom of speech thing, it's great. I could not say that it is an extremely important thing to have in this country. But what comes from it is there also is like a sort of downside where if you give someone so much freedom that they think they can run, 20 miles off to the side with it, then they start saying crazy stuff. And now people can be dogs and toasters and ovens. Like, what? That's crazy. And, the whole gender thing. Listen, I'm not trying to make a political YouTube channel out of this. I just know that that's not okay. It's not. You can't argue with me to say that, oh, if I want to be a dragon, I'm going to be a dragon. That's great. But I think you should go to a mental hospital to get yourself checked, because that's not okay. It's not okay. Stop trying to like tell me that it is or anyone else for that matter. I think we're very soft because of the fact that one, the freedom of speech is like a slippery slope, right? Because you give someone an inch, they run a mile with it. But I also think it's like you talk to someone here and they'll never tell you directly how they feel about a certain topic, for the most part. Like, there are people that do, of course, but generally you take 1,000 people, and most of the people, if they have to deliver bad news, or if they have to tell you something's unpleasant, or if you go to a restaurant and the order's wrong, a lot of people, myself included, like, I don't like to make people feel bad, but I'm getting a little bit more stern with my responses because it's not the way that I want it. So I want something changed about it. It will take an American a lot longer to get to the point than a European or an international person, because they were raised generally to save time and be more direct in their responses. And they're going to tell you how it is. They're going to tell you exactly what they think, why they think what they think. And it's not like they're trying to be mean about it. They're just honest. And we are both dishonest and way too soft. So when you pair those together and you try to be fake and like disingenuous and soft, you add all that together and people beat around the bush. They tell you things that they don't actually mean, and it just it's annoying. It's very annoying. So that's that. And a part of that, the only other thing that I've really realized is because of the fact that we're so entitled, like we have and can create a lot of the things that we want in this life, we create problems out of nothing. Like, you think about the fact that you talk to a rich person and they're going to have these like crazy problems. You're like, that's ridiculous. Oh, my, $10 million house, I need a maid for it, and the maid didn't show up today, so now I've got to clean the floors myself. It's like, oh, poor guy, gotta do actual work. And we create problems out of nothing, and it's weird. Like, I do it occasionally, like it's more of the financial side, but again, going back to perspective and gratitude, there's a lot of people in this world that don't even have a percentage of what a lot of us have. And if you're watching this video, that's an exact example. Like, we all have a lot more to be grateful for than we give ourselves credit for. So if there's one thing I would say is like, be thankful for what you have, because it can all be gone tomorrow. And it's important to hold on to what you actually do have, because I've seen it enough times to where we think it's going to go on for 20 years and it's going to be this way forever. and one day it's not. And you got to appreciate it, because a lot of people don't have what you have. And the last piece, it's more of like a side note, is just the culture as a whole. I don't know where or why we did it this way, but these cities are so massive that it's not possible to get from point A to point B by walking, unless you live in like dead center and you know everything you need is like right around the corner. You get lucky with your purchase. A lot of countries and cities around the world are built with the transportation in mind, where everything you need is right in one spot and you can walk a couple miles and you're good. I've lived in multiple states, and it's extremely rare to have an infrastructure set up so that you can get exactly what you need in a short-ish walking distance. You're almost always going to need a car, and the highways are a mess. Yeah, there's a lot of adjustments that definitely need to be made in the culture as a whole. That's more of a side note, like the infrastructure. Like, come on, America, I really wish they weren't thinking so much about the building being so far apart. My thought is like, because of the fact that we made a lot of the buildings that were made over the years were made after cars, so that they started to build everything extremely far apart. I would imagine, my thought is, where they first built some cities like New York, for the most part, it's pretty dense. So they built it because of the fact that they didn't have the luxury of being able to drive, you know, super far in a car that came around in the 1900s. So maybe I'm just going off on a tangent. I don't know, but you know, I'm just spitballing literally everything that I can think of about the American cultures. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to the rambling. I hope that this brought a little bit of value. If it didn't, let me know. Happy to have constructive criticism. Would love direct feedback, as that is greatly appreciated in today's world where a lot of people like to beat around the bush. So let me know if you did not like this video, and if you did, I would definitely love to hear what other videos you would like to see from me in the future, any other ideas, feedback in general. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned, and God bless.